Welcome back. Most guys hear her words. A Stoic man hears what she's not saying. When she whispers, "I don't usually do this," that's not a confession. It's a test, a signal wrapped in vulnerability, wrapped in hesitation, asking you one quiet question. Can you handle the weight of my desire without turning it into a performance? Here's the truth. Women rarely express attraction directly. They leave breadcrumbs, a glance, a pause, a phrase that sounds like hesitation, but feels like permission. And most men, they ruin the moment by talking too much, pushing too hard, or needing too much validation. But not you, not after today, because this video is about decoding the 8 subtle phrases women say when they're burning inside, and how to meet each one with the calm, anchored presence of a man who leads not with words, but with stillness. Number 1. What she really means when she says that. It often slips out in a half smile, somewhere between a compliment and a confession. You've just said something real, maybe shared a piece of your story without trying to impress. She tilts her head, looks at you a little longer than usual, and says it, "You're not like other guys." And most men, they hear that and let their ego explode. They think they've won. They start talking more, trying harder, proving they're even less like other guys. But that phrase isn't a medal, it's a test, a signal that she feels something different, but she's watching to see if you'll break the spell by turning it into self-congratulation. When a woman says this, she's not admiring your bank account or the fact you picked a cool restaurant. She's responding to your presence, the calm steadiness you bring, the way you don't interrupt when she's telling a story, the way you didn't rush to validate her when she teased you. It's not that you said something brilliant, it's that you didn't need to say anything. According to Goleman's research on emotional intelligence, women subconsciously scan for emotional safety long before attraction fully forms. Safety doesn't mean softness, it means steadiness, not reacting to everything, not needing her attention to feel valuable. When she says you're not like other guys, she's recognizing that you don't operate from desperation. You're not trying to be liked. You're being and letting her decide how she feels about it. The smartest response? A simple, "I appreciate that," followed by silence. Let the moment sit. Don't chase it. Don't turn it into a story about how all your exes said the same thing. Just return to the conversation. Ask her something thoughtful. Keep your rhythm steady, because the moment you try to prove she's right, you become what she hoped you weren't, another guy who needs her approval. This is where Stoicism becomes your backbone. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, focus on what is in your control. You don't control how she perceives you, but you do control how you respond. You control your energy, your attention, your posture. And when you hold that frame without grasping for more, she feels it. That calm assurance becomes your most attractive trait. And yes, the temptation will be to lean in, to soak in the praise, to build momentum. But restraint is what separates the man she remembers from the man she forgets. As paradoxical as it sounds, your silence after her compliment can say more than any clever response. Modern psychology confirms this. Goleman's work shows that women associate calm, non-reactive presence with emotional depth and trust. That means the less you try to prove yourself, the more she starts to believe there's something about you she hasn't figured out yet. And that mystery, that subtle gravity, it's irresistible. So the next time she says you're not like other guys, don't act like you've just been knighted. Let it land. Let her wonder why. Let your presence answer the question. Because the men who truly aren't like the others never need to say it. They just live it, quietly, steadily, without ever looking back to check if she noticed. And that, more than anything, is what keeps her coming closer. Number 2, what she's really saying behind the curtain of caution. She leans in, her voice soft, her eyes flickering between excitement and hesitation. The words come slowly, like she's negotiating with herself as much as with you. I don't usually do this. On the surface, it's a disclaimer, but underneath, it's a door, a signal not just of desire, but of risk. And in that moment, everything she's saying without saying becomes far more important than the words themselves. Most men hear that and think they're being warned off. Others hear it and see an invitation to push further, to coax her into proving otherwise. Both reactions miss the point entirely. This phrase is not about honesty. It's about emotional safety, about plausible deniability. It's her way of saying, I want this, but I need to protect how I'll feel about it tomorrow. Evolutionary psychologist David Buss explains that women often carry the burden of managing social perception when it comes to intimacy. While men are applauded for desire, women are judged. So when she says, I don't usually do this, she's giving herself emotional cover. She's testing not just your patience, but your maturity. The correct response isn't witty, it isn't seductive, it's presence, it's restraint. A simple I hear you, paired with steady eye contact and silence, says more than 1,000 clever lines. It shows that you understand the moment without needing to dissect it, that you see her complexity and accept it without trying to manage it, that you can hold her vulnerability without turning it into leverage. Epictetus said, keep silence for the most part. That's not passivity, it's power, because in silence, she gets to feel her own decision. In silence, you communicate something almost every man fails to deliver: emotional containment. You're not there to take anything. You're not rushing. You're just still, present, trustworthy. And that's where attraction turns into connection, because deep down, she's not looking for a man who needs her to prove anything. She's looking for a man who creates space for her to feel safe, to express desire, to protect her self-image while exploring connection. Psychologically, this moment ties directly into the evolutionary need for self-preservation. Buss's research shows women are wired to protect their reputation as part of their mating strategy. This doesn't mean manipulation, it means survival. It means thousands of years of biology and culture whispering in her ear, even when the chemistry is screaming louder. So your job is not to interpret her words literally. Your job is to listen underneath. To recognize that I don't usually do this doesn't mean she doesn't want to. It means she wants to, but wants to feel good about it. And your calm, non-reactive energy is what makes that possible. This is why practicing active listening in low-stakes conversations matters. So when a moment like this arrives, raw, human, layered, you don't flinch. You stay grounded. Because when you respond with steadiness instead of strategy, she feels seen, not judged, safe, not scrutinized, free, not cornered. And in that space, that quiet, trusting space, desire deepens. Not because you chased it, but because you knew how to receive it. Number 3. What she's really asking you to prove. She says it casually, maybe with a smirk or a quick glance away. Are you staying over tonight? The words land somewhere between a question and a dare, floating in the dim light of a post-dinner conversation or whispered after a slow walk to the car. But here's the truth: she's not asking for your overnight bag. She's asking if you have the emotional presence to lead without pressing. If you can read between the lines and still stand steady. Most men take this question at face value. They rush to yes or over-explain their plans, hoping to appear agreeable or interesting. Others freeze, reading too much into it, afraid to misstep. But the wise man knows this isn't about the bed, it's about your energy. At its core, this question is about composure. It's her way of testing your ability to navigate tension without dissolving into awkwardness or bravado. She wants to know, can you be the calm in the charged moment? Can you feel the electricity without short-circuiting the connection? Your response matters less than your demeanor. The most magnetic answer might be as simple as, "If it feels right, I'm here." Calm, collected, no rush, no pressure, no over-analysis. That's what she's watching, because what she really wants isn't just your presence, it's your leadership in uncertainty. Can you lead with calm clarity rather than eagerness? Can you hold space without pushing? Psychologically, this moment is rooted in a subconscious scan for emotional stability. Cialdini's scarcity principle explains that when something is calmly offered, rather than immediately taken, its perceived value rises. A man who can sit in ambiguity, who doesn't need the moment to go any specific way, is rare. That stillness is magnetic. She's not testing for logistics. She's testing for steadiness. She wants to feel that even in emotionally loaded situations, you don't lose your grip on yourself. This is why practicing slow breathing like the 4-7-8 technique isn't just for managing anxiety. It sharpens your presence. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold for 7. Exhale for 8. In that silence, you reclaim the moment. You become the one who slows time down instead of racing ahead. And this is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "Be the eye in the storm." She may not know the quote, but she knows the feeling. She knows when a man can steady the room with nothing more than his breath. She feels it when you don't react immediately, but instead let the moment settle. So when she asks, "Are you staying over tonight?" answer the real question. Not with words, but with energy. Don't rush. Don't stumble. Don't play coy. Stay grounded. Lead with your presence and let the moment speak. Because in that subtle invitation lies the truth she's hoping you understand without needing her to say it. She wants to feel safe in the unknown. And the man who provides that calmly, quietly, confidently is the man she'll remember long after the night's over. Number 4, the moment she hands you the steering wheel. When she says it, it's not about logic, it's not a warning, it's an emotional checkpoint loaded with electricity. "We probably shouldn't be doing this" isn't her asking you to stop. It's her asking if you can handle the depth she's about to drown in. In that moment when her voice softens and her breath lingers between each word, she's caught in the gravity between desire and doubt. She wants to feel safe inside the chaos, not pushed, not persuaded, just steady, held by presence. That phrase isn't resistance, it's vulnerability cloaked in cultural armor. Society tells her to hesitate. Her body tells her to move closer. She wants to know which of those truths you'll lean into and how calm your hands are on the wheel. Most men flinch here. They overreact, overtalk, or try to fix the tension by either backing away too fast or charging forward recklessly. But the man who wins her mind and body is the one who doesn't need to resolve the moment. He just breathes with it, because she's not looking for a reaction. She's looking for leadership that doesn't feel like control. This is where your stillness becomes your power. A simple response, "I feel it too," can ground her swirling thoughts into trust. That 5-word sentence said, with a steady gaze and no rush, tells her you're not alone in this. It meets her tension without trying to erase it. According to Daniel Goleman, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize emotions, especially under pressure, and respond with poise. This phrase, "this moment," is her stress test. Not for fear, but for emotional steadiness. She's hoping you'll prove that her vulnerability doesn't scare you, that her desire wrapped in hesitation won't make you act like a boy who just got picked for the first time. You've been here before. You know how to stand still in the fire. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes more than a philosophy. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens, but how you react. The fire isn't the problem, your flinch is. So don't flinch. Don't try to fill the silence. Don't chase resolution. Let her see that you feel the same pull she does and that you're not afraid of it." When she says, "We probably shouldn't be doing this," she's watching for any sign that you'll lose composure. any proof that you need the moment more than you master it. Because a man who loses himself in her hesitation will never be trusted with her heart or her body. So practice, not with her, but in yourself. Daily Stoic visualization, 5 minutes, imagining moments of tension, uncertainty, temptation, and seeing yourself respond with calm, slow breath, steady posture, quiet power, so that when this line lands in the air between you, you don't collapse under its weight. You hold it, gently, quietly, like a man who knows the difference between force and gravity, because that's all she's testing. And when you pass, she won't have to say another word. Number 5, holding the frame when it gets hot. She leans in, her voice playful, her eyes lingering just a moment too long, and drops the line like a challenge wrapped in velvet. What would you do if we were alone right now? Let's be clear, this isn't an invitation. It's a spotlight. She's not asking for a play-by-play. She's watching to see if you can hold your frame when things get charged. It's not about your answer, it's about your energy. Because most guys crack here. They rush into overcompensation. They blurt out something overly sexual or awkwardly polite. They fidget, they look away. They either get too serious or too silly. Why? Because they're reacting to the question rather than owning the moment. But the man who understands her test responds with stillness, with a calm that says, "I know what this is." A slight smirk, a beat of eye contact, and a relaxed, "You already know," is all it takes. You're not chasing the tension. You're sitting inside it like a warm fire. You don't need to extinguish the heat, and you definitely don't need to fan the flames. You simply let it burn. This is how high-value men lead emotionally. Not through dominance, through discipline. She wants to feel your awareness, not your approval. She wants to see that you feel the moment, but you're not owned by it. That her teasing question doesn't knock you off center. It's the dance between vulnerability and restraint, between desire and patience. And the moment you show you're comfortable in that gray space, she relaxes. She leans in, not because you made a move, but because you didn't have to. Mehrabian's research on nonverbal communication shows that 93% of emotional meaning is conveyed through body language and tone, not words. That means your half-second pause, your grounded posture, your soft gaze. That's the real answer she's looking for. Not the clever one-liner, not the seductive comeback. Just presence, just poise. Seneca said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity." And while a flirty question isn't a battlefield, it is a mirror. It reflects how comfortable you are with your own desire, with hers, with uncertainty. The more grounded you are, the more magnetic you become. So practice that inner stillness, not in the bar, but in the small moments no one sees. Breathe slower when you're anxious. Speak 10% less than you want to. Look her in the eye when silence stretches. These little habits stack, and one day, when she leans in and whispers that question, you won't flinch, you won't rush, you won't perform. You'll smile and say nothing that screams louder than your calm. Number 6, holding space for her emotional storm. She breathes it out in a whisper, maybe as your foreheads meet or as your hands brush against each other, longer than they should. This feels so wrong, but so right. It's not a statement, it's a confession wrapped in paradox. A moment suspended between impulse and inhibition, between her desire and her conscience, and how you respond or don't defines everything. Because what she's doing isn't looking for permission. She's testing for presence. She's not asking you to solve her conflict. She's asking you to stand still while she feels it. She wants to know if you can hold her chaos without becoming chaotic yourself. This is emotional polarity in its rawest form, the very tension that fuels attraction. And according to Brizendine's neuroscience research, women's brains are designed to process this kind of emotional complexity on a deeper, more layered level than men. To her, conflict and desire aren't opposites, they're intertwined. She doesn't need resolution, she needs resonance. That's where most men fumble. They try to talk her out of it. They say, "It's okay, don't worry," or worse, they make it all about themselves. They get nervous, they rush, they lean in too hard or pull away too fast. But you're not most men. You understand that your calm is the gravity in this moment. You don't react. You hold eye contact. You let the silence breathe. Maybe you whisper, "I get it," nothing more. Not to fix her or to convince her, but to let her know you're right there with her. Not shaken, not pushing, just grounded. Because that's what she's really asking. Can you stay calm while I unravel a little? Can you hold space for the thunder without trying to outrun the rain? Marcus Aurelius said, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing." There's tension in love, in truth, in desire, and to navigate it well, you don't glide. You grip, you breathe, you stay steady when it gets messy. So practice that inner stillness. Start with 10 minutes of meditation a day, not because it makes you spiritual, but because it trains your nervous system to stop overreacting to discomfort. Let your mind become the ocean floor, unmoved by the storm on the surface. Because when she leans in with her most vulnerable truth, this feels so wrong but so right. She's handing you the weight of her internal tug-of-war, and she's hoping you don't drop it. You don't need to answer the paradox, you just need to stay present inside it. That's where trust is built. That's where the real connection happens, and that's where attraction becomes something more. Number 7, holding the moment without taking it. She says it in a whisper, maybe when you're alone in her apartment. The night humming with possibility. Her eyes flicker between anticipation and caution. I don't want to regret this later. It's not a rejection. It's a request for emotional safety, for reassurance not through words, but through your energy. This isn't a moment to persuade. It's not about convincing her that everything will be fine. In fact, the worst thing you could do is start rationalizing, "Don't worry, we're adults, nothing bad will happen." That's logic. She's not in a logical space. She's in an emotional one. And if you go into your head, you leave her alone in hers. What she's saying, if you listen closely, is that she wants to trust you. She wants to feel her desire without fearing she'll lose dignity, self-respect, or control in the morning. And that's the moment where most men fail. They interpret it as resistance, or worse, as a challenge. But it's neither. It's an invitation to lead differently. Psychologist David Buss explains that women often link intimacy with emotional risk not because they're unsure of their feelings, but because the social cost of regret weighs heavier for them. That comment, "I don't want to regret," this is the brain's way of scanning for safety. Not physical safety necessarily, but emotional, relational, long-term. So what do? You don't escalate, you don't retreat, you stay. You hold her hand, you meet her eyes. You let the moment breathe without needing to fill it. You say something simple like, "I hear you," not to placate, not to promise, but to show her you're tuned in, not just to her body, but to her soul. That stillness you hold in that space, it tells her more than words ever could. It tells her you don't need to rush, that you're not here to take something, but to share something, that her presence matters more to you than the outcome. Epictetus reminds us, control what you present. Your presence should be calm, intentional, and restrained. That's what makes her feel safe. That's what separates you from men who talk their way into a moment they don't deserve. So start practicing the quiet discipline of self-command. Journal at night. Ask yourself, what do I really want from her? Do I want a moment or a connection? That clarity will shape how you show up in moments like these. It will train your nervous system to respond, not react. Because when a woman says, "I don't want to regret this later," she's not closing the door. She's watching how you touch the handle. Do you press forward? Do you walk away? Or do you sit beside her in the uncertainty and let her choose? That's what makes you unforgettable. Not charm, not persuasion, but restraint. In a world full of men trying to rush the moment, be the one who can hold it. Number 8. Her silence, the loudest invitation. It happens in the kind of moment most men rush to fill. You're sitting beside her. The music fades into the background. Her eyes linger a little longer. And then she says nothing. Just silence. No nervous laugh. No clever comment. Just that pregnant pause, wrapped in tension, waiting for someone to blink first. This is not emptiness. It's the most loaded space you'll ever stand in. A woman's silence after a moment of flirtation or connection isn't a void. It's a question. Can you hold the space with her? Can you be comfortable enough in your own skin not to shatter it with a joke, a compliment, or a comment about the weather? Most men can't. They mistake her silence for disinterest or worse, awkwardness, so they rush to speak, to ease the weight, to prove something. But she wasn't uncomfortable. She was inviting you to feel. Psychologically, this moment is a live wire. According to the Zeigarnik Effect 1927, unresolved moments are remembered more vividly. That pause, that breathless stare, that silence, it leaves a mark. Not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. It's tension that lingers, and if you can hold it without flinching, you become unforgettable. Women don't fall for words. They fall for presence, and silence is where presence gets tested. When she goes quiet in that charged moment, she's letting her guard down not to be rescued, but to see if you'll respect the drop. It's vulnerability cloaked in calm. She's not looking for a reaction. She's looking for depth. And if you're truly grounded, if your breath slows instead of quickens, if your gaze softens instead of scanning the room for an escape line, she feels it, and she leans in. Seneca said, "Stillness is the ultimate flex, not silence from fear, but stillness from control. From knowing you don't have to perform to be noticed. You don't have to talk to be remembered. In fact, the more composed you are in the silence, the more she imagines who you are beneath the words. That's what amplifies desire, not explanation, but mystery. So next time you're in that moment, don't fill it. Feel it. Let the silence hang. Let her curiosity bloom in the absence of performance. Practice this kind of presence outside of attraction too. Sit on a bench and observe without reacting. Meditate not to escape your thoughts, but to hear them without judgment. The men who can sit with silence, especially the emotional kind, signal something rare, emotional depth, not forced, not rehearsed, earned, through restraint, through patience, through the quiet confidence that speaks louder than any pickup line ever could. Because in that stillness, she doesn't hear what you say. She feels who you are. Look, if you're waiting for a woman to say, "I want you" in plain English, you've already missed the moment. Because when she looks at you and says you're not like other guys, she's not complimenting you. She's watching how you receive the compliment. She's watching if your ego inflates or if you stay still. That's what Stoic presence is. It's not silence. It's composure under heat. It's being the man who doesn't chase the spark, because he is the fire she can't walk away from. So next time she says, "We probably shouldn't be doing this," don't explain, don't reassure, just breathe, hold her gaze, and let the silence say what you already know. If this hit you somewhere deeper than your ego, subscribe now, because this is just the beginning. And comment below, "I respond with presence, not performance." Because in the world of emotional noise, your stillness is what makes her feel safe to fall.